It's Friday. We're pissed and hopeless. It's February 23rd, 2024, the year of our Lord. And your Lord and everyone's Lord. And choose the Lord you want it to be. It's our 14th edition of Anytime with Ken and Alden. And hello, my friend. How are you?
Hello. Now I'm just trying to decide which Lord I want. I mean, it's easy to say, like, I want the Lord of Light, but, like, this ain't that show. I don't know.
No, and we'll address that when we get back to Castly Talk, which we'll get back to eventually. Don't worry, folks. House of Dragon Season 2 is coming. Hey, this is Ken and Alden. We're here. It's Anytime. We've got Mike Fink in chat. We got Michael McCarcel. We got Boopenheim saying, I heard piss and I came running. And I love that. Matty Gunner is pissed and hopeless. The Matty Gunner members. I've had a day already, but Matty Gunner's our friend from the UK, but now I want to call him Matty Gunny. Sorry, Matt.
I'm dying at this immediately. My Lord, Mothman. I mean, hey, lots of cryptid fans out there that I think would be with you right there.
Cryptid fans.
Let us know who your Lord is. I think, depending on the day, mine is probably Dua Lipa. Probably actually every day.
Yeah.
I would say that for sure.
Dan from the Food and My Beard is here. Check out his channel as well if you want some great cooking tips. He's got some cooking books. You might enjoy Dan's work at the Food and My Beard, Alden. I don't know if you're a gourmet chef. Dan's a great cook, by the way, but he's got some great books on tater tots that I own. You like tater tots?
Yeah, I love tater tots. I think Dan and I follow each other, though we haven't met. Actually, I shouldn't say that. There's a great possibility sometimes that you meet someone like in a Star Wars Celebration bar and you don't remember it quite. But I know that I follow this man and all of his food making powers.
It's wonderful.
I do, yes, on Instagram. Man, Dan, you posted a video of a burger I'm looking at right now that has like corn on it. What? Man.
Corn? Oh yeah, you're talking about a corn burger? I don't know. I'm making
it. Yeah, can I move in with Dan? Little Lord Fuckleroy, which is a reference to Succession. Ken, have you seen Succession yet?
I have heard it, not seen it. It's one of the shows that Grace has watched, and I've been on the other couch playing video games.
Okay.
We're a two-couch living room family.
You consume a lot of shows as podcasts.
Yep.
As audio drama.
I have, until I watched the Dexter reboot, or that new Dexter series that came out a couple years ago, right? That's 8th season, whatever. I did not see one frame of the first 7 seasons. I only heard it, and I'm not even lying. I didn't even turn around. I just sat there. But she was binging it one month, and I heard every episode while I sat there playing MLB The Show in Fortnite.
Now, question. I've met Grace. I've spoken with Grace. Grace has been on my Star Wars show one time to talk about acting. She's got that unique arts perspective.
Yeah.
Does she ever, if you try to engage even a little bit, does she ever hit you with you either watch it or don't? Don't kind of watch it, because I'm that way. No. I get really angry when people don't try to talk from the sidelines.
Well, I don't. That's where I try to tread lightly. But no, she's upset that we don't watch more shows together, and that I don't watch shows. We watch our ghost hunting shows and Bigfoot shows because I'm fascinated with the world, whether I believe it or not. But I keep telling people this, and I'm not saying this proudly or smugly. I just don't watch a lot of things. At the end of my workday. This is part of my work day. By the time we're done, I got Force Center Live today. I'm working on a script for a company. By the time I'm done, about 8 or 9 o'clock, I just want to play video games, drink a Truly, a heavy drink, and or if I'm not going to a comedy club. So I don't sit down and watch a bunch of shows.
I guess that does make it easier, because I will try to, with my ex or with my family or whoever, okay, let's watch this together. And then some people, not going to name names, maybe they're watching, love to do I'm gonna go wash some dishes or whatever while it's on, and I'm I'm sorry, we can't do this then. Sorry.
Oh yeah. I don't. If you're on your phone too much, if it's a casual show, we're watching Love Is Blind or something silly, and I don't even sit down and watch that. But yeah, go for it. But yeah, if we're watching Bad Batch, we're watching.
Yeah.
Before we get too far down the line here, I do want to address that this is, I'm calling this Casual Friday. Normally, I try to take what hair I have left and slick it back and put on a coat. It hasn't been a bad week for me. It's just been a busy week and a good week. I couldn't even get our news segment out. I do apologize. I try to get that out every week. Shout out to the larger percentage of people that are downvoting anytime I talk bad about Trump. Love it. Love that. It's the first time I've ever seen a negative over the positive on a video, and I love it. I just couldn't get out this week. I had a very much needed gig for fandom come across this week. So that led into this show, and that's my life, Alden. But it was like, you know what? Let's just tee it high and let it fly. We're going to talk about some stuff about life, being hopeless, being pissed, and those feelings. Swing through news a little bit, but this is a Casual Friday edition of the show. You can listen later on the podcast if you want. We're on Spreaker and wherever other spot podcasts are found. Check that out. Thanks for subscribing to this channel. This is a brand new channel, and we are trying to build it here, moving it off of my channel to here, and it's going well. Thanks to everyone who joined the conversation last week with Nikki Kumar about Jon Stewart. Housekeeping out of the way, Alden. How was your week? How was your week?
Oh, it was a week. I mean, look, it's Casual Friday, and we like to engage with the audience in the way that we let them in behind the curtain. Not that there's really much exciting behind the curtain. It really is just this. There's it's not a Wizard of Oz thing. But
I'm drinking electrolytes. That's the kind of day it is.
Yeah, I'm having literal black coffee because I'm still counting my calories and on my diet and everything.
Good for you. Good for you.
It's working. I hate it when it works because it makes it really frustrating. Yeah. I remember like when I said I was on my diet, Molly was like, Alden, this works. This works. Molly Damon, I should say. We should just assume everyone knows Molly. Molly Damon from Star Wars Explained was like, oh, it works. And then I lost 15 pounds already. And I was like, damn it.
the
suffering. Yeah. So there's that. Okay. But then it's like I put this on Twitter, just now sharing the live link. You go to pick a topic. You go to plan a show. We kick around some ideas. You're writing scripts. I'm, either working the day job or whatever, and doing Octo Radio with Star Wars style. And that's the other thing that keeps us busy. Star Wars is in season. And then it was like, hey, here's a bunch of ideas. And in the mulling it over, I was like, I'm just so pissed and hopeless all the time. And you said, I think that's it.
I think that's it.
I think that's it. Like sometimes it's right there.
I think it's the state of the world, pissed and hopeless, and that's not new, right? That's what I keep saying. Is none of this is new. I just think we hear it more, where it's out in front of us more, and we have to interact with a lot of the stuff that makes us pissed and hopeless, and try to find it. And that's part of the victory. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. We'll get to it. Is always searching for hope and always trying to find hope. And some days it doesn't seem like it is. So you stumbled onto the topic, pissed and hopeless.
Honestly, and like we've done, like I think our second or third episode was like, how do we find like this light in the darkness? How do we find hope in these times? And like this is also more of that, but in the sense of like this week was in terms of women's rights and trans rights and indigenous rights and so many things that we will touch on. Was just a relentless beatdown of a week, and with a couple lights, which we'll get to in entertainment news. A certain pop star that Ken has already adopted in game, which we will discuss. And it's just like there are things to smile at. I mean, we got 3 incredible installments of Star Wars this week, so it's like there's always going to be the things that bring us our joy. But I just got to the point where I was like, I don't ever want, and I think you would agree, we don't ever want anything we do, especially this, to feel like a performance. And that's not the stuff that we're attracted to. We are not the people on Thread saying no banter. So we will get into this and just be really, really honest.
Yeah, Casual Friday indeed. And I love segmenting things out and everything. This is where our hearts are right now with this particular live broadcast. We got a lot of wonderful people checking in. I do like that you said her name and Molly Damon did show up.
Yeah.
She is.
She appeared. Pissed, hopeless, and caffeinated. Molly, I don't know if you're just describing me or saying you are also, but I agree.
Yeah. Maddie says the trick to turn being pissed into hope. And you know who does that well? It is a person who is on our thumb. And by the way, the thumbnail is just simply our brand right now, which is tracking the many emotions of Ben Affleck, which, of course, Alden begs the question, what Ben Affleck are we?
Today, we will return to Ben's filmography, an in-character photo. We've had 1 or 2 of those before. With one of our favorite feature films, it is the 25th anniversary of this film this year, as well as Phantom Menace, but it's also Dogma's 25th anniversary. And so I selected Ben Affleck as the Angel Bartleby after he has decided perhaps humanity does not deserve forgiveness. He has moved past his mission of trying to talk Matt Damon down from the sword, and he has chosen vengeance. But what I also like about it is that it's also young, handsome, babyface Affleck in whatever angel costume an indie production could afford. And there's a hokiness to it where it's like you're both goofy and performing, but also full of wrath. And I thought that really described both of us.
That's a great way to look at it. This is truly a pissed and hopeless Affleck right here.
Look at him.
It's amazing. And yeah, as I've said before, I'm a giant fan of the movie Dogma. I own one of the only digital video disc copies that you can watch this on, and we know the reasons that Kevin Smith doesn't own the rights to this movie to get it out there. But I love it, and it is. You're right. Look, 25 years on, I don't know how much of the stuff in terms of production design and costuming, stands up versus to what it felt at the time. That's a good way to look at it. But it's so real, and it's a funny film. But like, it's my favorite Kevin Smith work because it gets to the core of religion and spirituality and beliefs, and Affleck going heel that in the parking lot, in that parking structure where he kind of turns heel. It's one of my favorite scenes, and it's deep and it's important. And I remember sharing it with my mom, who is this isn't the type of movie my mom would like.
No,
and she took to it. It took to a lot of stuff that was being said in those scenes between those two characters. What is it, Bartleby and Loki? There's some truths in there. That's why I love this movie. And Pissed and Hopeless, this is exactly what Affleck ended up as in that movie.
Absolutely. For anyone that hasn't seen it, we don't do a lot of let's recommend things, although maybe we will do that. And it asks so many valuable questions about what is the difference between a belief and a religion? What is the difference between an idea and a belief, which is sort of what it comes down on. And that heel turn, some of Kevin's best writing of Matt Damon saying, I've heard a rant like this before. You sound like the Morning Star. It's so smart in an accessible way too. You're not going to feel talked down to or anything like that. So recommendations from 99. That's our new segment.
That's it is. 25 years on. And then, it's killing me to look at that photo of Ben, and you're right, babyface Ben, and I'm like, oh no, what does that mean for me? So I got the frosty mug going on today, and this is where we're at. It'll happen. It happens fast. Yep.
Matty Gunner here. That's the face after he drops the Dunkin' Donuts. JMB with a quote, "You're an innocent, but you didn't say God bless you when I sneezed." Yeah, lots of great lines in there.
Yeah, great lines indeed. And Alan Rickman and Linda Fiorentino. I didn't meet her, but she was at the farmers market when I was the security director there, and that was one of those kind of, I can't even say high moments. I loved her work during that era and love it in Dogma. So there you go. Share memories. Good pick, Alden. Sharing memories of 1999, which a lot of us are doing. A lot of us.
Hell
do.
Yeah.
Can I recommend too? This is totally off the path here, but connected. HBO Max, which is profitable, and it's a profitable streamer. And let's all hail David Zaslav for the stock prices that dropped today because of that report and other things. They have on there a great doc about Y2K, and I highly recommend people go back to it. It's fascinating. Y2K was a craze and an insanity. I, along with a lot of people here, lived through in a way that I remember it. I had to deal with it at my job, all that kind of stuff. It's a fascinating tale in what ends up not being a problem and how quick people to be like, see, told you it wasn't a problem. Meanwhile, cut to all the programmers saving the day for years. Yeah. It's a fascinating case study in humans reacting to the bigger pictures.
I love that. I got to check that out because as we've pointed out repeatedly, I was not really aware during that time because I was 3 for most of the year. I turned 4 in 99. So that's why I didn't see Phantom Menace, and I certainly didn't see Matrix, or certainly didn't see Dogma.
Get out.
Yeah, unaware.
Yeah, no. Check it out. check it out because it's a weird test, and it's weird to look back and those moments where a threat is real but doesn't happen, and everyone's like, well, then it was never real, and it was.
Exactly. Molly here says, I've been looking for new docs to watch this weekend. So on top of that, I will also recommend, I watched a documentary last night. It's an Oscar nominated for documentary short. It's only 40 minutes of your time. It is on Disney Plus. It's called The Last Repair Shop. And as an Angelino, Ken, you will know that the Los Angeles is one of the last cities that has its school districts offering free instrument repair. That any child's instrument that gets broken, there is in the heart of Los Angeles, there's a warehouse of people just fixing instruments, and it's about 4 life stories of those people intercut with the children whose instruments are being fixed, and then they all do a symphony together at the end from all the students that have had instruments fixed there from the 60s all the way to now. And I was just in tears. Like the guy that's the piano person fled from Europe, from a war-torn background, and you have like a mother coming from Mexico, and like just the guy that played with Elvis, like really, really compelling stuff. And hearing children talk about like their passion for anything always makes me cry these days.
Yeah, hey, because when you're pissed and hopeless, you need to find that kind of hope, and those kind of emotions can get you. I love it. Yeah, music being important and all that kind of stuff is art. The pursuit of arts is valuable. It's a little hard. Can I address too why I'm dressed like I look like I'm a roadie from a band in the 90s?
Because you're cool.
Sure.
That's what I thought.
My band, the musical project I work with, the Moonagers, Brian Tiller and Sean Arnold, we had a great opportunity this morning. We were on KLOS, the big LA rock radio station, Heidi and Frank. Our friend Mark Ellis goes on the show a lot. Old friend Johnny Ice produces it. And so they put the band on the segment called Stay or Go this morning. So if you go to the KLOS website, you can find a link to vote and see if we'll stay or go. We're probably going to go based on how the segment went this morning, but we got to live another day. Alden, I dressed like this, it was not video, but I wanted to feel the part as I called into the radio station. They play the song, and then they vote on you, and then they take calls to have people, talk about it. And for 30 minutes, I had to stand on the phone while most of the Los Angeles listening audience absolutely destroyed us and absolutely insulted us, absolutely just roasted us. And it was actually so painful, it was funny. And it also, whether or not music's so subjective, whether or not you like our band or you get what we're doing, that's not what's a debate. But it's just the pursuit of art is important. The pursuit of the stuff you're talking about, the musical instruments and kids finding themselves through it. It was a reminder that the pursuit of the arts is a thin and narrow path over the pit of Hades with everyone trying to push you off. So I'm here partly today a little shell-shocked that a lot of people were throwing rocks at me on that path this morning. And I'm happy to be in this nice bubble. And I just wanted to get off my chest because it was a tough morning for me. It was a tough morning.
No, I mean, that's the purpose of this episode. And let me just say, you told me a little bit of this via text, and I responded with some F-bombs and things and like just sort of. And, we don't swear a lot on the show, but I will just say, fuck the whole notion of letting people give their music opinions immediately with the artists there. No disrespect, of course, to Heidi and Frank, but
no,
I
they're great.
Could not imagine why that segment was created for any other reason than pain. I can't.
Yeah. Even our lead singer Brian Tiller, because they weren't being kind to any of us, and he texted me. He's like, yeah, I forgot that it's a morning show, and it's great. Heidi is great. She actually liked us a lot, and Johnny. It was a fun. Actually, because they vote on you live, and if you get 6 no votes, you're done right there. And it came down to like the last vote, and it was like great radio. It was great tension to see, and then a nice lady voted us on, so we got to hear a second song, which actually people like better. And we have till next Thursday to be voted on the website, but. Yeah, man. Wild. It just, So talk about, I was trying to find hope in being pissed and hopeless this morning too. And that's what I'm carrying into it.
In terms of our careers too, like people don't realize like this, it always sucks, right? To get roasted or anything like that, unless it's like in a setting where you signed up for it. But it's like, we have been radio guys or public facing people in the content space, and and you worked for what was at the peak of the entertainment stuff, one of the biggest channels. I mean, I remember my first time getting viciously, like, aggressively insulted when I was still an assistant, and we had done like a Facebook Live, and someone was like, "Get that effing socialist lesbian piece of shit, blah blah blah, off my radio." I had some, we've all gotten the violence threats, we've all gotten this and that and the other thing, and like it could get really, really wild. And so it's just a weird headspace to be in sometimes, to say, here's a thing I made. Do you like?
Yeah. And some people are asking for the link. I'm going to try to get this link in here too, and I'll drop it in the chat. Yeah, no, and it does kind of spur on this Casual Friday where we're going to go, where the show takes us a little bit here. And I do want to swing through some of the news and chat here. If you're on the audio afterwards, I'm dropping it in there. This is why I've changed a lot, too, in the way I discuss things. And I saw this come up with Madam Web, which I have not seen, and by all accounts is not a good execution of an idea. And that can go to a lot of different spots and that are legitimate. And criticism and the art of criticism is important. It's a critical study of art. And I have no problem with that. And I never have. You're going to like what you like. You're going to not like what you like. But there's reasons to discuss it. But it's just what this has become. And you had mentioned it. I saw you tweet out this week, and I appreciated you didn't tag me in the tweet, because I saw you just put my name and not tag me, because who knows what's going to happen with that thread. Yeah,
intentional.
Noted and appreciated. That and I'll say the name. It was Nick Mundy who had said to me in about 2016, like, we're going to pay the price for turning art and the discussion of art into sports talk radio. And he's a sports fan like myself, so I know what that means. And that it's not a surprise that hate leads, and it's not about clicks and YouTubes and where we are now with YouTube views and stuff based on hate, but it's just our it's so much easier for us to discuss things as someone as snark and as poking at art and this that, versus asking what it means to you or what it might mean to someone else. I think is even more important than what it means to you, because not everything's going to work for you. Like I said, I haven't seen Madam Web. I'm going to assume that a lot of the people I know they're seeing that are like, yeah, but it doesn't mean the film doesn't have any ideas, and it doesn't mean it might not work for someone. But and I saw the debate pop up around Chris Stuckman, someone I worked with a lot back in the day, who's now making his own films, and he announced, I'm not going to review this. Basically saying I did not like it enough to where I'm not going to tear it down because I know how hard it is, and people were roasting him. And maybe if you have a review channel and you're not choosing not to review things, maybe that's a discussion to have. I'll defer to you on that, actually, to see what you think about that. But I think it's important to notice, like, yes, once you get to a point where you're not in a room, in a home studio talking about someone else's art, and once you're actually putting your own art out there, I don't think you understand not just what the feeling of having it out there, but the process to get it out of your soul to put it there. And to watch the world that I was part of and kind of helped build out in 2013 to 2016 just become a sports talk radio of calling in and screaming versus trying to understand or just live a normal life sometimes. It's been part of the reason I've changed a lot over the last couple of years and how I look at the world. So yeah, that's where my heart is today. So what do you think about all that?
I have a lot of thoughts on it, to the surprise of no one. I first of all, I'm still laughing. I love that you clocked that. I wanted to quote you, but not give you notifications. That is true brotherhood. That is true love. I feel a multitude of things about the can you be artist and critic. I think it is feasibly possible. It's just that a lot of people are effing terrible at it, and that's the issue. Like, there are websites that shall remain nameless, although you could probably guess what they are if you've ever talked to me, that have people that are news editors and reviewers that are also in SAG or that are also in the WGA. And to me, it gets to a point now where you are betraying the entire idea of honor among thieves, and you are throwing stones, to your own. It does get to that way in a certain degree. I look at, like, my favorite thing to bring up in this conversation is Roger Ebert, arguably the definitive film critic. A lot of people would say, or defined a generation, showed them what that could be a job. He wrote about 3 movies, and they're all regarded as being terrible. So, like, take that for whatever you think. I talked to Mark Bernardin recently on Octo Radio because he wrote a Mace Windu comic book series that's coming out right now. And Mark went from film journalist into now directing a short, writing television, all these things. And we talked about it. Like, it is a struggle. And his bosses at the time said, if you switch to pursuing these things, you can't be on this beat. You can't be on this beat. Wow, and I understand that. Hell, on a personal note, I was for maybe 3-4 months until layoffs at Disney happened, and I just never heard anything. And I don't think this position even exists anymore. There was a person at a company that makes Wars and Stars who needed an assistant, and I was in the running for this. I don't think they ever got an assistant because sometimes that just happens. Like, nope, you can't have that. Actually, we're cutting. So who knows if I would have gotten it or not, or maybe they just hated me. I don't know. But there were early discussions that was like, if this happens, you need to close up shop on everything related to this. Because as Paul Heyman once said about his WWE career, you can be inside the castle pissing out or outside the castle pissing in. And so it's like,
Heyman, eloquent as always. And actually, he's very well spoken. He's very well spoken.
And so it's like, I struggle with the entire notion. I was on Chris's side, though, because I think ultimately what it comes down to is lead with love. We've the two of us and our co-hosts and partners and creative partners have all been accused of shilling, or you just like everything in a really condescending way. It is fundamentally factually untrue if you listen to our work, but also, as I've pointed out before, what we do is curated. It is curated. Our feeds are curated. You don't go on Pop Rocket and say, here's a song that sucks. There are songs you think suck. That doesn't, those things can coexist. We have people like Molly Damon, Eli from In a Galaxy, Ken Plume, Coop from Nerd Herder, all these people that we know that are making pods or doing shows or have YouTube channels. Like, I'll use, Star Wars Explained as an example because we know and love them, and Molly's here. It's like that is an active choice. It would be so easy at any time for them to go dark side. It would be easy for either of us to do that. It is way easier to do that. And it is way harder to do what they're doing and what Stuckman chose to do. It's weak to go online and just be like,
and Kingsburg House saying he wanted to have a discussion about it. And I'm not particularly, I haven't talked to Stuckman in years. Or Jeremy Johns, but Jeremy does what he does, and that's what he wants to do. Chris always wanted to get into this stuff, so it just changes your perspective. But anyways, it just and again, and a great comment here from Ken Plume, who has done a lot of work in this field. Criticism itself is an art form in itself, which means it's just as susceptible to having fair share of facts, which is I think in everything. Radio, podcasting, writing, cooking, delivery service. I'm sure there's some. I always joke every time I'm at a grocery store and. There's an opportunity to maybe bag the groceries myself. I'm like, I'm not good at this. I know we all think we can bag groceries. The person on the other side who does this every day and gets a check for it is better at this than I. I'm gonna let them do it. I'm not gonna yell at the way they bag my Oreos. So it's a thing in life.
Well, let me just say, as
a
former Trader Joe's crew member of 3 years, I hated when people wanted to bag their own stuff.
Did you get to the rank of captain?
No, no, God, no. I can just say this. I legally cannot, and I mean this literally, I legally cannot comment on some of the Trader Joe's stuff. But it is.
What happened there?
Yeah. So we'll talk about
That's
it. That's
the news headline. What happened to that Trader Joe's?
Oh, that was a whole thing. It's not the company that some of you think it is, but the whole idea of the people, I'll bag them because they want to be helpful is so kind. It's so kind. But I was good at it. Just let me do it. I could Tetris your bag. Okay. It's fine.
Yeah. A lot of people checking in on the bagging thing. But I'm off air. I want to know, did John Laurinaitis work at your Trader Joe's? What happened? What happened over there?
It was a whole thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Constructive criticism can be painful in its honesty. But and that's the thing, is that there are so many critics that are just like so good at this. I mean, like off the top of my head, people like Hannah Flint or Clarice Lowry. Sorry, I don't know which way she pronounces her name. Drew McQueenie. People that go in and like, here's my entire emotional experience with this thing. And we know a lot of
Yeah.
people that are really good at that, and that's valuable in the same way arts criticism is. But to sit around, what am I going to do? Trash, madam? Like, what do I get out of that? I could use.
Yeah.
I don't want to say ink because it's digital, but like tweets for something that I love, something that people didn't see, or you should, maybe this is worth your time. That's why I stopped using stars on Letterboxd, and like I don't have to. I learned this actually from Alex Backus, former guest of this show and filmmaker himself. And he was like, I don't do stars anymore. I just leave a heart if I responded to it. And if I didn't, I don't. And I'm like, I don't like stars. I don't like scores. I don't want to do it.
Leave a heart. That's a good way to do it. We are going to get into our main discussion here, which is great. We literally have no notes. We do have some entertainment stuff coming up here. Do you want to take you address some of the news stuff, and I don't know. We don't have to address it all. That just the tragedy of the death of Nex Benedict. We got the IVF embryos or people thing in Alabama that is just mind-boggling to me, and also a dangerous harbinger of things to come if some things go the way. So there's a lot out there, and that's part of the reason I think you're probably feeling pissed and probably feeling hopeless. But yeah, so anything you want to discuss on that, let me know, or we can get going.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the IVF thing, this has been said by people that are more qualified than me, but it's one of those things where it's like I came to the thought, and then I saw other people had the thought, and I was like, good. My response to that is, freeze your baby. Seriously. If you think that, freeze your baby. Let's freeze a newborn and see how it goes and tell me they're the same. So that's how I feel about that. It's just callous, absurd, misogynistic hatred and control.
Controlling,
like,
controlling. It's
just like it's the slow walk toward Christo-fascism, as they call it. So there's that. Former collaborator of yours, and some people will know, Clark Wolf, actually wrote, a Georgia resident, actually wrote a whole thing about it today on Twitter, and told her story about having using the freezing process and everything and that, and so and being Southern but splitting time between LA and Georgia, and sort of how that is. And so give that a read. Look to people that can have children. People with uteruses should speak on it. But yeah, I mean, I think we're both appalled by it. So there's that. And then the Nex Benedict stuff, I was almost in tears multiple times throughout the week because of how just like senseless, horrible, all those adjectives. But like it's horrible on so many different levels. That Nex was a child, that Nex was a non-binary person, and then also within the context of indigenous Native American culture, a two-spirit person of the Choctaw Nation living within Cherokee Nation. Just to make that clear, I pulled that information, and it's like it's a layered hate crime on 3 or 4 different levels, but it was done by other children because they were taught this by their parents. I don't think that there are inherently bad kids. I know that gets talked about a lot, especially in the world of true crime. Were they always this way? Right. Things like that from a young age. Ted Bundy. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. I fundamentally don't think that there is a bad child at its core. I remember Grant Morrison wrote a Santa Claus comic book called Klaus, and in it the Krampus, is the Krampus, and Santa Claus stands firm in counters with the statement, there are no bad children. Like the whole idea of the naughty list is fundamentally wrong. And so that sounds like a silly thing to bring up, but like that really stuck with me as a piece of art.
No.
And so to get to this point, and for there to be people like the government in Oklahoma and the school districts that brought in that libs of TikTok person for which there is no circle of hell deep enough, in my opinion. It's just like in the same way, this is a different issue, but like in the same way that I think Ron DeSantis should be slapped with negligent homicide for every single Florida COVID death, there should be negligent homicides charges on all of these people. This was a baby. Like, this is so repugnant. And I don't even know I don't know where we go from here as a people.
Yeah. No, and it's tragic no matter any way you slice it. And I say that because there's a lot of people already trying to slice it, right? You're seeing, well, this report says that, and this person said that the fight started this way. That is all. It's all just splatters of conversation out there that I don't even care about. The issue of this is obviously ongoing. This was obviously a bullying issue, and this is something that's close to my family. I won't go into the details as well, but I have my cousin's child had to leave school because their identity was getting them physically harmed, and at the same age. So it's I can't say too much more, but it's close to home, but it shouldn't have to be close to home, right? This isn't the well, as the father of a daughter, I now suddenly look at the world different. How do we push past that to just seeing this stuff all the time and seeing what the struggle is, and it was horrible to read and figuratively look at the situation, but I hope we all can and hope we all can realize this is. I'm not glibly attaching to the conversation about movie criticism, but it's the same energy of how hate leads, right, and how negative leads, and how we all start picking up the traits of looking for what we don't understand and then therefore hating it, looking for what we don't like and therefore attacking it. It's the same kind of human energy, and I don't know how to go from here, but it affected me as well. It hit close to home, but. Yeah, and I think your words on it are good.
Yeah, and we internalize it in everything that we look to, whether it's the art that we consume or the relationships that we have. Like I would be lying if I said that like watching, new Star Wars doesn't make me that it's not colored by these things, and they should be. Seeing a little girl in Star Wars this week, the character of Omega, who is a gender variance amongst the clones, in as much as you want to look at it in a literal sense of the sci-fi or as in the trans allegory, leading the way and leading with love and like being there for the grown-ups and for the animals and for everybody, and then being moved by that and seeing the way that we are capable of writing about these things in an aspirational way, but we're not capable of living them. Like the spontaneous protest of the kids in northern Gaza that grabbed their pots and pans and marched with no adults. They all just did it. Little babies. It's like, if we can't agree on that, then there is no coming to the table. Like you sent me a great video that's like, how do we talk to the other side? And and there's so much value in it. So much value. But like, then we see what the other side is capable of. And it's like, do they want to be talked to? And I struggle sometimes because it's like, I want to come on here and be measured and not rage and cry. But at the same time, it's like, my first thought sometimes is man, the guillotine queue is getting long. Like I pulled this guy's name because I just needed to know for sure who I was addressing. Congressman Andy Ogles, Republican from Tennessee, who said, I think we should kill them all about the Palestinians. I think we should French Revolution that guy. Like, I really do. The fact that this person can serve and be chosen, it's sort of like the way I feel about the worst YouTubers. Like, I dislike them, but then I look at like the 50,000 views and I dislike those people more. It's that made me feel relentless anger, and then I realized, oh, this is someone's pick, and that is why we're broken. I mean, I remember like after Sandy Hook, I sat with my teacher. We talked about this, I think, on a previous episode, and it was like, is this the line? Evidently, it was not the line, and evidently, beating a young person senseless in a bathroom and then ignoring it. No one calling an ambulance. No one doing anything. They actually suspended Nex. Nex died, suspended from school, and it's like, we didn't want you in life, and we don't want you in death. And that sounds so dramatic and horrible, but like, it is dramatic and horrible.
Yeah.
So that's what put us. That's what put me in the like, not to make light, but like, that's when I texted you. I was like, I don't know if you're bringing this up, but like I want to talk about them because I didn't know this kid, but like this kid is every kid. You know, this kid is your cousin. This kid is you know, like my ex has a daughter, and I remember conversations about like I would get nervous if, you know, sending her to like ballet class and stuff about, God, what if girls pick on her, and that's just picking on, you know. And so it's like I think about that, like my nephews and stuff. My nephews are black, and I think about that too. And I talked to Nikki about people he knows that are in the sciences and how a lot of them are like, yeah, we all agreed it's irresponsible to have children because of the planet. So when you combine all those things, and then it's like, what are we doing for a show? I'm like, I don't know.
But yeah, no, and I appreciate you being honest. And this is part of what you and I want to do with Anytime. I want to have this also be a fun, snappy, funny political news show. I want to speak on Taylor Swift, and it's all part of the bucket of life. And this is one of those weeks, and there's going to be those moments. And I appreciate these kind of shows and have the ability to do these kind of shows because it's not always 100% appropriate. On Force Center, we're not going to address every real world thing that pops up. Sometimes there's things that happen on a scale that can't be ignored, and we've done that. And we'll continue to do that. But I was before that on shows where I was straight up told, you don't bring politics to this table, even though we're discussing art. And I understand, I want to be clear, I understand in a big general sweeping sense, right? And I am also someone, too, that today I am watching 4 bozos hunt ghosts in a hospital. Like, get it. That's part of even our conversation. But and what we had in episode 3 or 4 of the show of just like sometimes when the news is too much. But I even if I can't find all the right words to say about these things, I am very happy that I'm at a point in my career and life where I want to have the opportunity to at least try to talk about these things because it is truly all connected to me. It is truly all connected to me.
It is. It is. You know, finding the setting. But I'm glad that we've both gotten to a place where we have this show and opportunities at least to say that we're aware of it. There's so many good comments here. I mean, lots of
For those in the video, I was going to bring in my buddy Plume again. It's the inhumane energy of hate, and he followed up. It speaks to broken society. We've commodified hate and demonized empathy.
Yes, we look down on empathy and sentiment. We see that in small ways, sort of like what we talked about, like people making fun of artists for being really invested in awards or whatever. We hate sentimentality. We hate like verging on satire and just like passion. But then we hate. But then the furthest end of that spectrum is actual, like we hate empathy. We hate the fact that people think about others, which is really weird. Charlie bringing up, I want to highlight this as well. Breonna Gay, who was also murdered by fellow teenagers, anti-trans hatred. It's a deeply heartbreaking, depressing state. I mean, that happened here. There was a follow-up from Maddie Gunner. The UK Prime Minister made a joke about defining a woman right in front of a woman whose child had been murdered for being trans. How do we let it get this far? PLD's here. Heartbreaking. Yeah, I mean, Jared bringing up his sister, an openly bi preteen. I can't not get so full of rage when I think about the backwater hillbilly hellhole she goes to school at. It's like it's getting to the point where, I mean, it's easy for us as entertainment guys to a certain degree. We don't make this an entertainment show primarily, although we cover stuff. But it's like, that's why I think you get so emotional sometimes watching things that are about the future, because a lot of the times the stories we tell have hopeful futures. And it's like that. It is sometimes easy to say like this story reflects now, and it oftentimes it does, but it's also like our best instinct and what we could be. The whole like idea of like better angels is like I couldn't. It was hard for me to explain to people why I cried when Grogu stopped Paz Vizsla and Axwell from fighting. I just sobbed, and I still sob every time I see the scene because only the child could do that. Obviously, we fucked it. Obviously, it's too late for us. And I thought, and I talked with Maddie Gunner about this off air, as we often do, he and I, about what will stop it? Is it just going to be generational die out? Like, is it literally just we have to just hold on until people are gone?
That that I told you I'm hopeful for the future because the change always wins, but it is important to address the human side of a lot of the folks that might have been on the front lines of the civil rights movements of the 60s are then years later, or even at the same time, faced with a person, an identity, or a situation that they have the same almost energy, right? It's not necessarily you become the villain that you once fought against, but it's as you grow older and things change, you're going to be faced with things you don't fully understand, and even though you might have been marching in Birmingham, you're going to be like, well, a woman's a woman, right? And that happens a lot, and I think that's part of what I want to try to unlock. And what I always say is just like, even this is one of the things I do occasionally talk about on the stand-up stage, and I say occasionally because sometimes I know an audience doesn't want to hear it, even though if they need to. And it's okay to acknowledge that you don't fully understand a situation. And I think every generation coming up is going to face that you don't understand what is in front of you.
Yeah.
And that what being a person's journey, a situation, a change in words, a change in how, and it's okay to acknowledge the lack of understanding because it's new to you, while also standing in line to support it. And I think that's part of where I try to focus a lot of my work is in my own personal growth is unlocking a lot of things that raise me. That's why I'm obsessed with the 1950s and the moral panic. And how so much of my life growing up in the 80s, being raised by parents raised in the 50s, by no bad intentions in their hearts, just things were put into me that I didn't understand where it came from because no one understood where it came from. And that's where I look for the future. I have hope for the future, but every generation will face the challenge of not understanding the new thing coming up behind them. And how you unlock that is how we best go forward in many ways for me.
Yeah, it's hard because you want to be able to work out what happened before you while also being and internalize that in healthy ways and like pick it apart and say I can keep this, I can keep this, I can rework this. You're sort of looking at the toolbox you were handed down and
Yeah.
saying what is still viable in here. But at the same time, there's someone younger than you down the road that has an empty toolbox that is like, well, I don't have anything to work with, and you have to be the one
Yeah.
that's like, do I give them this? Do I
Yeah.
give them
Yeah.
this? And that's sort of the way it feels. Where like my oldest nephew is the 13, and he just followed me on Instagram, which is weird. And then I was
I
like,
don't like that. Yeah.
and then I was like,
My nephew's 20 now, and I forget that sometimes. And it's like, oh, I saw you on your stream. Oh no,
your nephew's like a grown ass man. Your nephew
Yeah.
votes. Like that's like so wild. But it's like I want him to be able to do all these things, but also you don't want to feel like a liar for not being realistic. So it's hard. I mean, I'm sure we got parents in the chat. I'm sure we have other people.
Yeah, and that's I don't know what to. Yeah, I don't have that experience, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway, sorry,
Michael
cut you out there.
McCarcel has a great. No, it's okay. I'm just. This is a very engaged chat right now. Lots of really honest and raw stuff. I have a friend, Michael McCarcel. I have a friend who I miss dearly. I was there when she started the transition, but she had to move away. Being trans in Louisiana is just dangerous. She had other reasons, but that was a big one. Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing is that I have the benefit and the privilege of being even within my own subsect of like Puerto Rican people, I'm white, and so it's like I don't even carry that burden like a lot of people do from my same cultural background. So the two of us, like being white cis het guys, is I don't know what it's like to not be wanted fundamentally.
Yeah, for me, the conversation of privilege isn't about what I lack. It's about, what other people lack and understanding that in the best way possible. And I agree with you on that there. I want to shout out GMB says, I believe, Bo, talking about Bo with the Fifth Column, a YouTube channel I highly recommend. Says, on a long enough timeline, we win. But getting there, sure hard, and it may not be in my lifetime, as JMB says. Yeah, and I recommend Bo, the Fifth Column, if you want to have a reasoned breakdown of the news, but reason is a loaded term, right? Sometimes when you hear people say, "But it's a reason take," it's a real smart and research take, and I highly recommend Boba the Fifth Column and even addressing some of these tougher issues.
Absolutely. JMB, don't worry about your typos. It's all good. It's all good.
My life is a typo. Don't worry about it. A lot of people learned this week that I say Moss Eisley Cantina as Moss Eisley. So I see it in my mind. I see it in my, so I put out a great promo for Jennifer's wonderful doc on Force Center, and it was misspelled, but it really wasn't misspelled in my mind because that's how I say it. So JB, you're good.
I've been making fun of my mother since I was little about the fact that she pronounces Disney as Disney with an extra I or E in there.
I didn't learn all that until I didn't learn that was my struggle until I got into the VO booth to do the audio version of my book. And every fucking 10 minutes, the engineer would stop me and politely be like, "It's Calvary, not Calvary." It's Isley, not Isley.
Well, that was a weird thing for me too, is that the cavalry versus the cavalry has always messed with me, because I knew what cavalry was in terms of like the military term, the cavalry. But then the Calvary, the religious term.
I went to a Calvary chapel growing up, so I'll say that one. I went to a Calvary chapel,
and I would sometimes say Calvary referring to the cavalry, and that Calvary. Well, man, we got to do something about this English.
All that to say, GB. Plubes on fire day with some great comments. I recently heard a great insight that folks are presented with two choices as they get older. You either harden your heart to the world around you, or you soften it. You encourage empathy, not apathy. Yeah, apathy is destructive. And that goes to, and I think there's something Boba the Fifth Column was talking about recently too, but growing up, and even now you hear, you're liberal when you're young, you become conservative when you're old, and that's said with like some kind of proud. And I remember even saying that. And doing the, if you're 18 and you're not liberal, you don't have a heart. If you're 30 and you're conservative, you don't have a brain. I remember that statement. Probably saw it on a bumper sticker. Yeah. But to not fully understand that what that means is the world has changed and you're not changing with it. That's why those become quote unquote more conservative. And again, that does. We're not talking tax policies. We're not talking about nuanced looks at security. We're not talking about any of that. And I always want to acknowledge that. But when we're talking about that kind of the social stuff, yeah, that's what's happening. So anyone tells you that just means they're a rock in the ground that ain't moving. I hit the zenith, that's it, and everything else after this, I don't understand, I don't care, I'm apathetic towards the changing world around me, and that's where that statement comes from. And that's something, too, that I'm trying to untie from my past.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to laugh over you. I just glanced at the comments for a Charlie Ashby zinger. We got to do something about this English. The Spanish Armada thought that, too, and look how that turned out. Yeah. Yeah, historically an interesting point. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Fine. And then I want to get into a little bit where we're going here today, because we got to move to as well. But Jack Cole says, "I have a man who pronounces Anakin, not Anakin."
Well, I mean, you're best buddies with Mark Ellis, and he does Boba Fett.
He did, yes, and he's changed because he had to, because he got destroyed for it on the internet, because that's what the internet does. It was regional. He grew up in like Williamsburg, Virginia, and he was like, "We said Boba Fett," and I love that too. Where like I remember I didn't read the Song of Ice and Fire books till after 2011, but I talked to a lot of old school Game of Thrones fans who were like, "Oh, then the show came out, and it was Catelyn Stark." I'd been calling her Catelyn Stark like for 20 years because I read the book and didn't hear it anywhere else.
I remember when I read the first Twilight book, when those were like,
God bless you. God bless you.
I read all 4 Twilight books.
God bless you.
And I'll tell you why. This is a fun aside about openness, kind of tying into your story from our previous installment about Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles.
Yeah,
I was making fun of Twilight in middle school, and but now woman who I went to middle school with back when we were a young boy and a young girl, her name was Taylor, and she said, "How can you make fun of it if you haven't read it?" and just cut me
And
down.
you were like, checkmate.
And I was just like, she got me. She got me. So I grabbed my cousin Stephanie's stack of the books, and we were on a trip, and I read them all while on the plane, in the car, everything, read the whole thing. Didn't really care for them, but the idea of, I don't even have the part of the picture, so I wanted the full picture. Anyway, the father vampire in that, his name is Carlisle, and I had never read the word Carlisle, and so I thought it was like Carl Seal or something, and was so challenged by that.
I love that stuff. It still happens. I'm a dummy. It happens. I think we are having the conversation. Josh Barosis says Tanev 4, which is actually Tanavi.
I had the same thing.
Yeah, but that, let me tell you, it's an entire generation. And this came up when I was recording Why We Love Star Wars, and I think we ended up going with the engineer, who was a great guy, kind of forced me into the wrong answer. So if anyone ever listens to the audiobook of Why We Love Star Wars, to me, Darth Vader's Super Star Destroyer is the executor. And he's like, I think it's executor. Whew, and we went back and forth. Yeah. And the truth is, this isn't like AT-AT versus AT-AT. This is like, did you grow up just saying the executor or the executor? And we didn't have the internet to tell us where we were wrong or where we were right. And he and I was in a booth for 10 minutes trying to figure it out. And you'd find proof for both sides. And we eventually, he said, I think it's the executor. And then I think I heard it somewhere else on like StarWars.com or some official thing as the executor.
I've always said executor. We actually had an off-air conversation about this, me and some of the guys that we know about some of these names. On the Pokemon side of things, God, Pokemon will send you down a fucking rabbit hole for this stuff. There's a Pokemon named Arcanine, which makes sense because canines. But when I was a child, I thought it was Arcanine.
That sounds better to me.
It sounds cooler, but it's wrong. So that just and then this whole thing, these made up words.
Yeah, and then JB's got the one for all time, GIF or GIF, and I think that's GIF. One where GIF is correct, right?
Yes.
The creator of it has says, yes. I think sometimes in society we reject the truth, and it's like, to me, I'm like, it's GIF. It's not GIF, it's GIF.
See, the thing about the GIF stuff is that not only did the creator say it, but the reasoning is out there, because when they developed the format, it was riffing on the peanut butter. They were saying, say choosy developers choose GIF in the way that they would say, moms choose GIF.
Love it. Love it. Hey,
GIF.
Hey, we'll all figure it out. I think we're having the conversation that we wanted to have today, although we're in it. That we're taking these fun random road trips out to other parts of the desert. But yeah, the Piston and Hopeless, and it's something that's on your mind. And again, I don't have any answers because I'm there too. But start me off. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to dig into this?
I think in a certain way, it does tie into our theme of hope, our theme of multiple truths that we touch on all the time, because it's fundamental to who we are and our journeys. But I guess I would it sounds so like main character syndrome, but like I would love license to just be angry, like in as much as I feel like, because we are under constant threat of like our industry imploding and our jobs disappearing, and like you're working on a couple projects this week, and it's like that ain't every week. That's they're fewer and far betweener for both of us. Then
that was my first 2 freelance writing gigs in about 7 months.
Yeah, and I just acknowledge that I said fewer and farer between, so maybe I don't deserve a job, rather than fewer and further between. But I would like license to just say like, this sucks, without somebody thinking, because of what we do, that our problem isn't real. I'm sure you've had that. I don't know, with your parents or siblings or whatever, of like, well, that's not a real job anyway. And it's like, sometimes I feel so isolated in the anger, which is why I was happy that like I galvanized people on Twitter by accident by complaining.
Yeah. You had a comment out there about Billie Eilish and TikTokers, and that I agree with in theory, though. I even had this conversation offline with Ken Plume. Again, it's been around 20 years, different iteration. This happens. The time is a flat circle. Whatever the quote is, I don't care to remember. Bloggers, YouTubers, right? Schmoes were the first two ever accredited YouTube reviewers, and we used to make fun of them, right? So there's always something new that comes along that doesn't necessarily mean you are inherently amateurish or wrong for being there. TikTokers or influencers being at some of these events doesn't immediately upset me. It is the way people act around them, or the way they're being used, and the slow implosion that's happening underneath it all, that's costing other people jobs and work, and it does make me angry at times. And you want to temper your anger, because I don't want to put it at the wrong person. I don't want to generalize too much. I also want to address change, because I only have a career going right now. 25 years in Hollywood. The first 15 were trying to get meetings, managers, live shows. And it was suddenly like, oh, I can take that to another format that's accessible to my home studio. I like change. I like where we're at. But yeah, I know what you mean. To own your anger on a particular thing that's affecting you is how you manage that, is how you find the hope.
Yeah, and you don't want to be consumed by it. That's at the core of so many things that you and I both love to watch and read and listen to. And it's like, righteous anger versus anger that becomes all consuming, like, and you're also trying to be self-aware, like, it's cool to be in therapy, everyone. I'm currently not going. I haven't gone in maybe 6 to 8 months, maybe a year, I don't know. And it's like, I know that at my core, because of my personal stuff, I will hold a grudge like no one's business. You and I are both grudge holders, but I might be worse than you. I don't know.
You are.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I know I actually forgive pretty easily and can get along with folks. I'm usually the connective thread between a lot of friend groups. I like finding new ways forward. I'm trying to reconnect with some old people in my past this month, and have been, because life's too short. But I get burned. I've talked before, like, people hiding who they really are can upset me, and I never forget it. And I have a list of the sins against me that you have done, which you'd say is a grudge. I just don't act on them. I just try to find the best way forward. Sometimes finding the best way forward with that person, because I ain't perfect too, and they could have a list of my sins as well. So that's the way I look at that.
Yeah, the who they really are stuff has been a theme with me as of late. Like I've said this on Twitter, so I have no problem saying it here, and I've said it other places. Like, so the root of my character flaws in a certain way is the fact that it's not just that I grew up with one parent. It's that my father left us before I was born, and then had a really successful life and helped run the Department of Children and Families for an entire state, and didn't tell any of those people that he had walked out on a child.
Right.
And that type of hypocrisy, which, like, we're all guilty of to a certain degree. I am far from perfect, as many people will tell you. I mean, ask half the staff of Collider what they think of Alden Diaz. But
ask the old staff what they think of me. It's not all positive.
No, it's not. But it's just like, I feel like I can say I'm difficult, or I'm not perfect, and all these things. But then there are some people that cling forever to the idea of righteousness, which is a trend throughout every topic we've covered so far. The person that, the Oklahoma government, they do find it to be righteous because they convince themselves that they are protecting kids. Just like in the same way that like my father probably convinced himself of his atonement story, just like how movie reviewers online that contribute to toxic culture and complain about turning things into a girl's brand probably convince themselves that they're doing something that needs to be done. Everything is about convincing oneself, and that's part of that is what makes it scary, is how we are prone to do that as humans.
You were pissed and hopeless, and I'm trying to find the connective thread to get you some hope, and others out there. I think I do have the ability to, as dark as the clouds around me can sometimes be, and I put them there, and sometimes there's a song lyric from the 90s of where God shines his bright sun rays, I put on dark sunglasses. It's a line I love from this song from a band that no one even remembers. I can barely remember them. And I sometimes feel like that's how I deal with hope. But trying to find you and have this conversation, and again, acknowledging there's acknowledging privilege, acknowledging perspective of everything. We are not on the front lines of Ukraine fighting for our country's existence. We are not scrambling from a country that's being bombed as we try. Acknowledging it, but acknowledging it, but we got to figure ourselves out too, so you can also help everyone else out. But I'm trying to find hope for you. And I think I don't know. It's trying to manage. You talk about you don't want to be always. You try to be measured, but I think it's those lessons of Star Wars. And that little green guy Yoda says it right of acknowledging the path that goes from a fear or an anger that leads to suffering. That's why that's timeless to me, not just to be made fun of as a prequel meme in a Giphy. That's where I try to go, and that's where I try to go for you as my young apprentice. Have you measure? Can you measure your own anger enough to fucking hope?
I appreciate that, which is an understatement, and you and I have had many conversations over the last 4 or 5 years of being friends about where we're at.
Oh, well, we're not friends.
So this really is a collider situation. We're gonna log off and not speak. No, but it's it's like, I don't want, first of all, for anyone listening, I don't actually expect Ken to fix my problems, nor does he expect me to. This is not codependency. But sometimes I think it is those small things of just like you'll have times where you'll text me and I'll be like, try to do my best, or I'll text you and try to do your best, or even on this show. And it is, I think, smallness, bigness inside of smallness is a theme that I love in fiction, but it's also sort of the only thing getting us through this right now. Like me crying at a 40-minute documentary about instruments being fixed, or small things that, like, even in our lives, like your fiance Grace, like what she does with her business is at its root entirely top to bottom about helping people, helping their pets, helping their homes, their relationships, teaching other people how to do it. Like that type of stuff is the stuff that gets me through the day sometimes. Like Matty Gunner in the comments with his Monday playlists, the beginning of the week, like here's something that I'm putting together for our consumption, is in a lot of ways that I think that to me is the hope of I mean, again, so many cliches, like, we're strong. How did you guys do it? We had each other. Like
that's stuff. I make fun of the bumper sticker advice as well, but it works, man. It works because it boils everything down. Back in my security director days, there's been a couple times I've had to author emergency response plans. I had to author the one that's like for farmers market in the Grove. They want them to be like 200 pages. I was like, this should be 10 pages. No one, when an earthquake hits or an active shooter starts or whatever happens, 15 pages is going to be better than 250 pages. And that's why it is cliche or what you're talking about. I get it. It sometimes seems so trite, but that's even the reason I bring up Star Wars. I spent 10 years not just watching it and celebrating and talking positively about it. I've spent 10 years analyzing why this thing connects to our lives. And as Joseph said so eloquently, sometimes in his own way, like, I got to connect Star Wars to why I shouldn't send an angry email to someone, because that's what we have. That's why this stuff is so serious. It is, pop culture is our culture. It's what forms us in so many ways. So that's where I try to go with it. I'm just trying to help you.
No, right, and I'm trying to help you by being, I don't know, the next, I don't know. I mean, people joke like, am I just turning into you or whatever? I do.
Who's joking about that? Is Jared the Dark Jedi joking this?
Jared has literally. This is not a joke. Jared and I, people on Twitter know, like we have a trivia rivalry. It's all a bit. In some of our shit talk at each other, he has referred to me as Knapsack's Strandcast, which is a very funny dig.
That's amazing.
It's a very funny, nerdy dig.
That's funny.
I think you and I have probably what the Jedi would look at as a good pairing, but maybe not the best pairing for the bigger picture. Like if I was like a Force-sensitive kid and you picked me, Yoda might step in and be like, "You need to pick a kid that's different from you. You need to challenge each other a little bit more than this."
Yoda would look at you and be like, "How are you feeling?" You'd be like, "Cold, sir." Yeah,
cold, sir. Love that you guys highlighted that line.
Yeah. No, but you've got a rage inside you, and it's just, and that's okay. I think you can get lost, like but see, I've got a sadness inside me, right? So I'm gonna get drowned. I'm gonna drown in those waters,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why going back to the advice thing. That's kind of where I was going with it. Is in the heat of the moment. I don't need to know 75 pages of what to do in an earthquake. I need to know how to save myself and the others around me and do my job and move forward in a tough
Mm-hmm.
situation. And I think a lot of what you're talking about, that rage inside you, can move you forward. Rage is a motivator. Rage isn't I think,
Mm-hmm.
inherently bad thing. It's part
No.
of the existence. Going to, this is just going to turn to Star Wars, but that's one of the most important lines in Star Wars from Padme's perspective of telling Anakin to be angry is to be human. It's normal. You can't
Mm-hmm.
control that. You can't erase that. It's a matter of acknowledging it and how do you move forward with it.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Again, we don't want to turn it into our Star Wars shows crossing over, although that does happen.
This is
Alden.
clone Alden. Alden.
Alden sounds like ET saying it. Alden's my green goblin in my head, pushing me onto dark deeds. I want to be Ken Knapsack when I grow up. Oh yeah, by the way, everybody like this video,
Like the
the
video.
stream,
Like the
share it,
video.
retweet it.
Do the thing. Do the thing.
Thank you, Dylan
We're
Barry.
Thank you, Dylan Bear. We're about 100 subs away on this channel from getting to the next level and unlocking some cool things on this YouTube channel. We're still this is to me like a month-old channel. It's been around since November, but we're really finally leaning into it, and it's been fun.
Mhm.
Charlie Ashby says, "You're Anakin." I subtweeted them, not just the women, but the TikTokers too.
Look,
There you go.
people
There you go.
should be grateful that sometimes I choose the subtweet because, as I said to Ken a few days ago, if we started letting it all fly, it would be never ending. If this turned into the Goblet of Fire flashback of naming the names of Death Eaters, we'd be here all day.
Trust me. I got a list that there shall never be olive branches extended to. I'd love to. I'll take a couple Trulies. One of the
Really,
things
I
too.
do appreciate it. Oh, please go ahead.
No. Change it to, because if I'm not careful, I'll just start saying those names. Look at this. Hopefully, this as people look at the world. This is a conference. We're talking more specifically here about you and your feelings this week, and your feelings of your career, your pursuits, the day job you have, all that kind of stuff. But I always want to try to connect it to those outside of those walls around you and what you're dealing with. But like, if you're pissed and you're sad and you're hopeless looking at the news this week or any other week, this is why we'll probably have this conversation again, because there's going to be some days where I look at the news and be like, God, it's a heavy. It makes for a heavy heart. But sometimes I've told you too, like, we all joke Alden's a 12 tweet thread guy, and I don't want to ever change that. But like, that a lot of that might come from anger. A lot of it comes from actually you wanting to celebrate something. A lot of your tweet threads are like, here's 12 tweets about why I love something. I've always like, how can you take that energy and move it forward constructively, and not just professionally, not just money making, but where you put your energies is sometimes key. I'm not talking about specifically to you. And this, if you look at the news and you look at the situation, you look at a situation at a school thousands of miles away from you, you can get pissed about it, and you can tweet about it, and you should, but you can't change it. You can't change it, so you're left with maybe an empty, rageful, hopeless feeling. So you got to find that, where to put that in your life. And where to make it, work for those around you, and carry that empathy to those that you can touch. That if you feel like you're disconnected from the bigger picture, and it's like, how do you take that anger and move you forward?
Yeah, and I think that in terms of like the moving forward, especially hearing you say it, somebody who's like my friend, my mentor, but is also in the generation above me, it is that is also a source of hope. Is that we've done our our fun generational Q&A. Maybe we'll revisit that and do a second round, whatever
I totally
it is.
want to do. I want to do that game again where we try to guess each other's references.
Very fun. So we'll do that some more.
But I'll tell you what, though, I'm going to bring in a ringer. I'm going to bring in a ringer to help me write some, and you can do that too.
I'll bring in someone even younger than me and make it really painful
for both.
But we have, our bond, I think, represents that, like, sometimes looking just the generation above you or below you can give you hope, because it gives me hope to see you say, I thought these things and I changed. And so when I'm coming on here saying, let's drag these people out of their homes because they're destroying the children, there is also people that are older than me that are like, well, I don't want to be that. I want to learn. I want to ask a question. I want to even like my mother watching a documentary about people living a different way than she ever did. Like even small things like that do matter. They do.
Yeah, it's why sometimes, again, I speak in generalities because that's the safest at times, but also think the most correct. You and I talked about this and having differences of how politics and your views on politics and social issues can absolutely change relationships. And I think there's times where it needs to change it. And maybe you can come back together with that person later on, whatever the situation is. There's a specific case I'm trying that in my life. Of someone very close to me. We had an explosion of a separation and now trying to find the right way back. Because number one, life is too effing short. And there's got to be something there. There's got to be a sense of hope. But there is that Legia Miller video I sent you. The core of it is whether you watch it and you agree with 100% of it or 60% of it, doesn't matter. I think the core of it is there is a lack of an attempt to understand the journey other people have, and that's why I talk about unraveling how we were taught. The easiest example, I've mentioned it before, but I was raised as a music fan, but I was raised to think David Bowie and Frank Zappa are weird, and so I grew up thinking they're weird. And so at one point I realized, no, they just spoke out against the systems, the oppressive systems of harm of the day. They spoke their minds on issues. Bowie used his platform to question MTV on who they were playing. Zappa went straight at the religious Christian nationalists of the day, and that was plugged into me as weird. So that informs every decision and every person I interact with going forward. Until I realized, let me analyze how I was formed. And how things formed me, and you can change. And in some situations, you can't do that in life because there's people who've, again, we'll talk about individual situations. But in general, like kicking back to you, of just like trying to understand where some of it comes, that and that empathy that you can show is going to change them more than the anger, right? In generally speaking, I don't know whenever being yelled at. Unless you're on I guess Andy Reid put Travis Kelce more plays, so I guess yelling at your coach works then. But very rarely do you have the examples of the actual change. Anger can start, but the actual change coming from another source is what I believe in. And again, you might throw individual situations out with people or situations in history.
Right.
In 1939, I think we agreed Germany marching on Poland was maybe time for some action. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want anyone to throw that at us. I'm talking about on your day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't really have much more to add to that. Like you said, yeah, we both acknowledge there are situations where you just gotta, as it became on the internet, sometimes you do have to just punch the fucking Nazi. You really do. But at the same time, you gotta be Indiana. You gotta be Steve Rogers. But at the same time, in our lives, like you've been open about it on the show. Like you're gonna just you can't just yell at your parents, even if you want to.
Yeah.
And because then what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In general.
So,
absolutely. I'm not. Yeah. If your dad came walking through the door like Freddie Lennon did to John Lennon in '64, like I wouldn't be like, what you should do is. We don't know. Yeah. And again, Plume's on fire today. I literally, he's probably on fire. He's probably got the heat up turned in his house. You can't effectively address the problems. You willfully ignore understanding the roots of it. And again, we always, in generally speaking, I think that's really true. And that's why I don't like, to overlook middle America. I don't like to say F Florida. No, it's F Ron DeSantis and those around him. It's not FU. It's not Alden Diaz, citizen of Florida.
It's not my fault.
I have hope that the people affected by this ruling in Alabama with the embryos, it's already coming out that it is citizens, hopeful parents in Alabama who are like, this is where, they're good people there in that fight. You just got to give them a chance to be that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
until they prove
until they show who they really are. We're winding this part down. You know, we could be here all day, but you have a show. We both have things to do, and we are both prone to over delivering. So if everyone has
You can
questions,
tell me to
comments,
shut the hell
everything.
up, Alden.
No, I mean I could be here all day. I would feel bad keeping you. We could do 3-hour anytimes all the time, and I'd feel great. But
Yeah,
it's just not feasible right now.
I get you.
But so if anyone has comments, anyone has concerns, I already bookmarked 2 quick questions.
Yeah, you got some. I want to get to those. Yeah,
for later on. We'll do those toward the end.
Yeah, quick swing through entertainment. Did you want to do that? I think there's too fun. Sometimes you need that palate cleanse of a very fun story.
Yeah, 2 fun stories. We'll start with one that is not yet directly affecting us, but it is exciting news and very interesting news. The BCU, the Beatles Cinematic Universe, which they're not actually calling it that, but the internet, of course, did. Sam Mendes, who a lot of people say Mendez, it is actually Mendes. Sam is British, and you might know him from, of course, it is Mendes. Yeah.
Look,
he is.
I'm one of the ones who will be like, it's Scorsese.
Yeah, Scorsese. Yeah, born in Berkshire to a Trinidadian Catholic father and English Jewish mother, and his film career includes such films as what I think is the best Bond film, at least for me, Skyfall. He also did Spectre, 1917, Revolutionary Road, Road to Perdition, American Beauty. Guy's been around forever and has done some great work. And he has announced that he is going to do 4 Beatles solo films, like they're superheroes, 4 individual features that will all be released in 2027 that are going to be the individual perspectives of the members of the band. Did they say it's going to culminate in some big Beatles movie? No, but like I think it's like I wouldn't be surprised if that did happen. And immediately, I mean, the memes were very funny, especially in terms of Marvel. Like my favorite was Paul McCartney will return in wings. That was one of my favorite. It was so good. And people sharing like, you know, memes about like people don't realize that Ringo's will be the saddest of the movies. Yeah. So what was your reaction? I mean, you're a Beatles guy and you're friends with other Beatles experts, people like, you know, movie Mance and it's a big thing for a lot of you guys. So are you favoring one of these? Are there things you're hoping they do or don't do?
David McKay says the best. Where's my Pete Best film? Where's the Klaus Foreman film? Yeah. No, I really like this idea. And Sam Mendes, am I saying it right? I didn't know that till this day.
Mendes.
I was reading it in the book. It's Mendes. Sam Mendes. I love his work. Going back to, even though there's things around it. I was an American Beauty movie goer. I was the look at the bag flow in the wind. I loved the film that I haven't seen in a number of years. I understand. I get it. There's things.
Yep.
I get it. I get it. But I love his work. I do love Skyfall. I do love Spectre. I trust him. I also was a big fan of the movie Backbeat. If anyone has seen Backbeat, it's hard to get a hold of. Talking about the Beatles during the Hamburg days. I went into this a little bit on my show, 20 Minutes of Coffee, that I trust it. I trust the team around it. And it's fun to make the jokes. We got some great jokes in here of Thanos and credits, all that stuff. I worry about it. I just don't even know if it will happen as planned, right? Like, this is the thing. I remember you reported on the movie news during the Schmoes days. Like, you'd have a story like this. There's going to be 4 Beatle movies. And then 2 years later, you know, the movie comes out and it's about a summer in 67 and it's all 4 of them in one, you know, it's with them at the Maharishi or something. Like, I think it might change. But I'm excited. I think I'm so familiar with the story. And I know every generation kind of discovers the Beatles organically on their own, but a lot is passed down. But I've forgotten all of it, and I would like to see it played out. Cast Danny Harrison as George. Cast his son as George.
That's an interesting angle. Like, how much are Sean and Julian and the Beatles' children? I'm actually not scholarly enough about Beatles to know about like Ringo's kids or anything, but like the ones that are celebrities and making their own stuff. Like, yeah, like are they interested, or is this an estate situation? I do think it's an interesting idea because not every band can, even if I would like it to be this way, not every band can support all of its members having the claim to fame to draw box office, if that makes sense. Like, they could do, this is not a comment on the quality of the movie, but they could do Bohemian Rhapsody with Freddie as the lead, but they could not do the Brian May movie and draw. You know what I mean? Even if I would love to be in that world, because I would love a Brian May movie that was a smash. You can do that with Beatles. You could not do it with like, you know, the members of AC/DC. You know, you couldn't do the individual AC/DC movies. The Beatles crossed into that, and even the Stones. You could maybe do Mick and Keith movies.
Yeah. You don't like the Bill? You don't want a Bill Wyman picture? All right, fair enough.
I would go with you. I would be your date to the Bill Wyman picture, but it's hard because it's like this might be the only time we can do it. So it'll be maybe the first and last example. For members that could all support it. Are you I think it's safe to say you along with Charlie Ashby are going to be give me the George Harrison movie ticket first, right?
Yeah. If they all were to come, if it was like the was it 76 or 77, 78 when Kiss released 4 solo albums on the same day.
Yes, 78.
Just release all the movies on the same day, and then we'll decide.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting. I think it's fun. I mean, Mendy's also a theater background, and he did the 98 revival of Cabaret, which became the 2014 Cabaret, which is like one of my favorite musicals and everything. So he's got the theatricality and the eye for that as well. And I'm sure the music will be handled very well. I want to bring this up, though. Apparently, it's not Berkshire, it's Berkshire. And I would like to say that this is a fight I've gotten into with Charlie Ashby numerous times. Charlie Ashby, he's not from Berkshire, but he is from Islington, as I learned, right?
Oh, that's right. Islington.
And one time, I referred to it as Islington because that's how it reads, because that's how Isle is spelled. And both him and his mother made fun of me. And he said, and I quote, Alden called Islington Islington like a fucking dickhead. And they all laughed at me. So here's where we are. So I would like to say, your pronunciations are hard over there, guys. Although, if you'll have me, I'd love to move over there and learn.
Yeah, no, I always say, forgive my American tongue. Like, it is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, getting roasted by his mom, too. Matthew Stokes says, I live on Northamptonshire, Berkshire, Buckinghamshire border. There you go.
I love that.
Yeah, anyways, to me, as a lifelong Beatle fan who had them change my life in 1987 when I discovered them, had heard about them, but really discovered them for the first time for myself then. I'm excited. It's, we only got 2 of them left, and that's dark clouds to say, but, let's get the story out here. I remember when, Anthology came out, and it was finally like the definitive Beatles story as told by them, and that was 1995, and we've got more stories to tell.
Do you have, and I'm asking this because I have an 80s related Beatles thing. Do you remember the context in 87 of the first time you heard them? Because I can remember the first time I heard the Beatles.
Yeah, no, I do. I was at a birthday party for my friend Brandon. It was a slumber party. We were all like 6 kids at a tent by a campfire on this big church property, actually, that my friend's dad was the pastor of this church in Arroyo Grande, California. And my friend Sean, who was the one who taught me like the rules of football, and we're still friends. He lives. He actually moved to Florida from Vegas recently. We had a cassette, and he was like, have you ever heard the Beatles? And it was just like, well, yeah, but, I didn't know. And again, I was 12, it's 1987, and he played Sgt. Pepper's on cassette. And I just remember thinking, cool, man. Like, wow. I felt a larger world that opened up. Like, Obi-Wan just said, you must go with me to Mos Eisley. Yeah, that's where it started.
For me, it was the iconic scene in Ferris Bueller's Day Off when he goes from Donkashane into Twist and Shout. Nice. And I watched that as a kid because my mom let me watch anything, and I watched tons of 80s movies, and Ferris is still one of my favorites. And when you switch to that and the music kicks in and the entire Chicago street, including the late great John Schnepp, who is in that scene.
Yes, he's in that scene,
yeah. When they all freaked out, I remember distinctly as a kid, and Matthew Broderick is lip syncing, so it is the song. I was just mesmerized. I was like, this is the most energetic and cool thing I've ever heard in my life. And from that moment on, I was like, oh, the Twist and Shout scene is the greatest scene in movies. Yeah. I mean, it's the greatest. And I still think it's one of the best. And so the Beatles, to me, will always be the moment I realized that people could freak out in the streets over music.
It's a great scene. I think for about a year or two, I thought Matthew Broderick was singing it. So, you know, it all happens. Our final news story of the day. Yeah.
One more entertainment story that I will let you take the lead on.
Well, you
In what
pitch
is
it.
one of the
Yeah.
yeah, one of the great callbacks in entertainment was Lady Gaga years ago tweeting, "What is Fortnite?" misspelled, and now being added to the game and quote tweeting her own tweet with the correct spelling as she was added as a playable character in the game.
That's right. And I last night got my first win. Me and Ken put my first match as Lady Gaga. We got a crown. It was a crown victory too. So I am ready to go. Yeah, I'm ready to go. That was that. Gaga got the winning shot too. So I'm in on it. I'm in.
Hell yeah.
All in.
Hell yeah. So I'm not a Fortnite player. So these are how did they incorporate her? Is it just simply a skin to buy? Was there a Lady Gaga?
No, they've been doing this for a while. And if Plumestone Chad and those who played Fortnite, I started in 2018, left for a while, came back about a year and a half ago. They put these things in, but they bring in like Eminem's in the game. You can play as Eminem. You could have a match where Lady Gaga and Eminem are fighting each other. There's some other more modern younger artists and stuff that are out there. They also have like acquired, what is it, like Rock Band, Rocket League. Fortnite's trying to own all the modes, and there's the Lego mode now, which I don't really play. But so you can go and like play a song, and like it's like Rock Band or Guitar Hero. So there's that. So there's a concert to have, and there's a big promotion, and then you get all the skins. So then you can get some special ones, which I'm trying to get a hold of. It's more of her Chromatica Ball Tour stuff,
Nice.
the purple outfit she wears. So it's fun, it's silly, and the game's not for everyone. And I don't even know 100% know if the game represents all the right things in the world, but it is wildly fun.
Yeah.
To be played a match where you saw with Ken usually plays this like Gwen Stacy or something like that, but like you're in a match where it's like Lady Gaga and Anakin. And or Darth Vader and Eminem, and it's just, I take it as what it is, kind of silly, stupid stuff too. So it's fun.
What I love is that through their different promotions, they have built up enough real people that you could honestly have like a role models team. Because John Wick's in the game, so you can have Keanu Reeves.
Yep.
So you can have Keanu Reeves and Lady Gaga and like John Cena and like they're putting together people that are like, they're good for kids. These are good.
Becky Lynch. Yeah, and it's again, is it we could talk about the ramifications of violent video games, just like Tipper Gore might have talked about in the 80s in rock music lyrics. I totally get the bigger picture conversations, but I just love it, and it's hilarious. It is fun, and it felt like I had a busy day yesterday, but to finally sit down like 10:30 at night and get a victory in my first match as Lady Gaga, it felt like I finally accomplished something yesterday.
What Lady Gaga tracks are in the game, if you've done that section?
Born This Way, A Bad Romance, God, something else I can't remember.
They got to put You and I in that game. That's my favorite Gaga track.
It's a good track.
Love that one.
Good track. But anyways, check it out. Check it out.
So yeah, go play as Gaga, join Ken, see if you can beat him. If anyone has last minute questions or anything to throw in, I'm going to get to these two that are show related. Dylan Barry, where does Anytime come from? Which, hey, you might be new. And we haven't really expanded upon it since the first episode. So in short, I'd been kicking it around as a title for a long time. And Ken and I both independently of each other had an enjoyment of time-based titles. You had the afternoons with Josh and Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had wanted to do Anytime. And we both liked Last Week Tonight. And you had Your Week Ahead in the works, and there, so it just like we independently of each other had like this is sort of the zone. We both really like late night, we both really like talk shows, and I had wanted to do one that didn't fit comfortably into morning, afternoon, or evening, especially because I had worked in radio. This is my 7th year professionally, and so it became, I realized that I didn't like the hierarchy pecking order that is just a fact in radio. Morning is always more important. Afternoons is always, midday is always poo-pooed, and then afternoon drive you can get a little bit of love for. And I thought that was wrong. I thought it was dumb. I hated seeing the way that some shifts were treated. And so in that
10 to 2 was a great shift, and it was shit on. Middays was a great shift.
Midday is treated like they don't matter, and it's horrible. So we were kicking around ideas for this show, spinning out of a conversation from Blathering, and I just mentioned like, hey, I had always thought about doing Anytime with Alden Diaz, but I haven't. And then we both were kind of like, I think that's it. Like,
and I was like, but it needs my name in front of yours.
Yeah, but I'm going over, brother. But I'm going over. I protect my spot.
Yeah.
So that's
there
the
you
short,
go.
that's the long and short of it.
Yeah. For me, I like catchy names. I like to say it on the tongue. And Anytime with Ken and Alden, just like the Afternoons with Josh and Ken, and it's not related to the Afternoons. It truly is Alden's idea. It just was, and I wanted it to be newsy, but not newsy, and kind of the brand can go where we need it to go. So there you go.
Yeah, and there are similar ones like Bill Maher. He's got real time, but I don't know what real time even means.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Well, he's getting real. It's getting real. Means. It's getting real. Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, and I like it.
From our friend Cooper, also known as Boop. I demand a book club immediately. And this isn't a question, but I saw the comment and I thought about it and I was like, that's actually something we could do. So we'll mull that over off screen. But do you have a book recommendation that you'd like to make just off the top of your head? And then maybe we will book club this when the Anytime Patreon launches. I don't know when. But
can I have someone read it for me so I don't have the time? I have about 19 High Republic novels. I cut my comics this week. I went to my comic shop this week and said no more, I'm out. I'm about 200 issues behind in the Star Wars comics, so we'll see
it's a sad
what
reality.
We can do.
It happens.
Alden, if you have more time to read, we'll bring in Charlie Ashby looks like a reader. You and Charlie could do the Anytime book club.
Charlie reads memes. I don't know if he does read. He's a very educated journalist and has an actual journalism degree, which is a thing that a lot of these online journalists don't.
That's not going to get you any work.
No. So in terms of books, A Snow Crash is a great book. Please, what is this? Please kill me. Please kill me my legs. What? Oh, it's History of Punk Music. Oh, it's two separate comments.
Oh,
American Psycho, Money for Nothing. This is super interesting.
About Dire Straits.
This is a different question. Okay, I see. I'm sorry, reading the questions backwards, everyone. What has the better opening, Money for Nothing or Hold the Line? Damn.
I'm a Dire Straits fan, but Hold the Line by Toto's a great song.
Those are both great songs. I think now the question is opening, right? And I think that the guitar for Money for Nothing is pretty good. It's hard to beat, and it was used in the Willow finale, so it should honestly be my answer by default.
Got it. Okay. Well, we'll get some graphics going, and you can all read the book. Hold the Line.
Yep.
Hold the Line's kind of winning. Okay.
All right.
Great stuff. We're almost out of here.
Indeed.
But before
by the way,
yeah.
I was going to say,
hit me.
If anyone wanted a real book recommendation, things that I have read that are not Star Wars, I'm just staring at my shelf. Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon is great if you love Game of Thrones. Ballad and Dagger by Daniel Jose Older. Great urban fantasy. A Colony and a Nation by Chris Hayes is a great read for history and political people. I like books when I can, so you can always hit me up too. Tweet the account anytime on air.
There you go. Follow Alden on Goodreads. I don't know. There you go. We're almost out of here. But before we do, as we always like to do, we present our Pop Rockin' Word of Wisdom. This is sponsored by my radio show, Pop Rockin' Radio, where when I play new music on there, I don't absolutely make fun of the band or roast them and tell them to leave the business. And we've got your choice this week. This is a song that has been played on Pop Rockin' Radio many times, Alden. What do you got for us today?
Oh, good, because I don't think we've actually ever spoken about this band, one of my recent favorites, so it's cool to hear that they've been on the show. This is from the UK, and I'm not going to try to tell you where they're from, because maybe I'll pronounce it wrong, but this is The Struts, and a band that I've seen live I really love. This is from the song that really, really made them, Could Have Been Me, and it's got the song lyrics up here from the opening. Sorry, hold on. Don't want to live as an untold story, rather go out in a blaze of glory. I can't hear you, I don't fear you. I'll live now because the bad die last, dodging bullets with your broken past. I can't hear you, I don't fear you now. Wrapped in your regret, what a waste of blood and sweat. Oh, I want to taste love and pain, want to feel pride and shame. I don't want to take my time, don't want to waste one line. I want to live better days, never look back and say, could have been me. It could have been me, which I first heard in a wrestling promo, and I thought, damn, that's really good.
Yeah.
And I really like it. And we don't have a lot of glam rock and stuff that's happening now. And they're one of those bands that I saw them at a crawfish festival, before they were really hitting, and they will play for 20 people like they're playing the Garden. Like it really is just like that type of experience.
That's a great band.
We need that call to action.
Yeah. You got to hit that, I can't hear you. I don't fear you. That's a great part of the song. Great part of the song. Great band. Wonderful. Struts are great. Struts are great. They were recommended to me by my pal, Roger Craig Smith.
Oh,
love it. Yes, that's why we play that. We play that song a lot and the other stuff as well. Oh, in chat, Adam Knight is here. Debate's dropping his Amazon link. He's got some great books you all should read. So drop it. Drop
absolutely.
it.
Put
Adam,
the link in the chat. Tweet the account. We'll retweet it.
Yep. All right. We're out of here. You're right. I just looked at the clock. I got Force Center Live at 2:00, and I got to get me a sandwich. So a lot of fun. This will be up as a podcast later. If you're listening on the podcast, tweet us. Let us know that you're enjoying the audio version. Alden, I know we didn't solve any problems, but I think it's good to acknowledge that you're pissed and you're hopeless, and that's sometimes the state we're all in. So I hope we did something for you today.
And I'm also single, so if pissed and hopeless is your thing, you can also tweet the account.
Sometimes that goes hand in hand. All right, follow us, subscribe, tell your friends. We'll see you next week. Bye.